So welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to finally have you on. It's been a while of back and forths and stuff like that, trying to narrow this down. So like I said, welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Aaron. A pleasure.
So right now you're speaking to us from Spain right now. You normally, I didn't know this, but you normally reside in LA. So while you're in Spain right now, was it strictly kind of like a leisure holiday, or do you kind of work on stories and scripts and things like that?
Now I came because of Christmas, but at the same time I had to promote the Wait, the movie. So I have been doing some rounds with press and yes, so I still going on.
While you're doing a press run and things like that for a movie, are you working on other things in the background, or do you have to kind of just focus in on one thing?
I mean, I know there is maybe other filmmakers that they have a lot of things in parallel. I'm more specific and I go step by step. So, I mean, I have some things in the background, but my main focus is the movie I'm working on or promoting. So I cannot really think about the next thing till I'm totally done.
Is that just with promotion, or is that in general? Like if you start to write a script or come up with an idea, do you just focus in and try and give everything to that one specific idea?
I'm very obsessive, so I tend to do that. It's true that working in the American system is very different, and you have to have different projects. I have been in the past sometimes been like working in 6 movies at the same time, which I think is a little bit too crazy, but that's how it works in Los Angeles, right? Uh, it's just yeah, you just have like 6 different projects, and the one that you think that is feeling that is gonna get the green light is the ones you put all your energy. And till that moment, you have different horses in the race, let's say, right? That's the American way. The European, more independent way that I like to work with usually is more focused on like I do that for my personal projects. I have like a one that I write that I love and I keep in the background, and that's the one I'm pushing secretly. And if something else works faster, great. But yeah, so it's 2 different ways to go.
Because I had heard you speak previously about that and your newest movie, The Wait. You had said about when you were speaking with different producers and different companies and streamers and stuff, you found that sometimes you were getting the rebuttal of, well, do you have anything else like your last movie? And
Yes.
you feel like is that definitely like a more American thing to do that?
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, usually you may have 3 projects and you're pushing for one, and they suddenly everybody wants I don't know, like a comedy, for example, and you have a comedy project and say, well, we don't want to do this now, but you have, and then you can say, yes, I have this. I don't work like that with my personal projects. Like once I want to push, like the weight, I was focused. I had the weight. I have another ones that they are my projects too, but I wanted to do that for sure. So I was just going forward with that one. But again, that's a personal project. Other than that, in the US, yes, you have like 3 or 4 projects, and you can meet producers and talk about what you are working on and you are developing and all those stuff.
How long have you been in LA now, like as your home base, I guess?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's I think I made like 15 years.
Wow, okay. And what
Yeah.
what originally brought you there then, career-wise? If because I always hear this, and like everybody says it's not necessarily a knock on LA or on the States or anything like that, because it is kind of the place to be. But a lot of people have that same sentiment where they say like sometimes you have these passion projects and it's very hard, and then if you do maybe, or you're involved in like a bigger movie or a bigger title that kind of goes over well, a lot of producers kind of say, "Can you give me more of that? I just want that. I don't want this other thing. I want this again."
I know. Yeah, that happens a lot. Uh, well, I went to LA because my first movie that was a very personal project to call Before the Fall was an end of the world apocalyptic thriller. And it got released in Berlin. And after Berlin, I started to get some calls from agencies in the US. And eventually, I got a call from Wes Craven, and yeah, he made me an offer. He wanted to remake Before the Fall, and I was going to work with him on a project that you probably know called "The People Under the Stairs."
Yeah, yeah,
I was going to remake that, so that was my first gig in LA. So I went there and I moved temporary, and what was temporary became like 15 years. So my reason was because I was getting offers in the US, and then I started to go back and forth. And at some point, I say, well, I should stay here. It makes no sense to be traveling every month. Um, and so it depends. I think now, for example, I like to spend more time. I mean, I live still in LA, but I like to spend like 3 months, 4 months in Europe, because I don't think I need to be all the time there. They know me already. And I can spend time here writing. I like to write in Spain a lot. I come to to the beach and I sit down there and relax and try to think about my stories. So, and obviously being European, this is home for us. So it's, you can't compare. So I don't think you need to be in LA to be working as a filmmaker, but it's good to have, a connection back and forth. I still live there, and at some point, I think I will move back to Europe. So
that story you said about getting a phone call from Wes Craven and he wants to remake Before the Fall. So the deal was he was going to remake that, and then you were going to remake People Under the Stairs. Is that what
yeah,
I gathered from?
yeah. Well, he was working on remaking Before the Fall. He offered me like, well, I would like to. I have been thinking for a while on this movie, and then he showed me People Under the Stairs. He said, if you are interested, having a take, we could try to make a new version of it. He at the time he was doing. I don't know if you remember. He made a remake of mm, uh, the Hills Have Eyes
Yep.
with my fellow Greek filmmaker. I don't remember right now the name. He was great. He made a he made no, he did that one with Alex no, with Alex Aya, right? The
Yep.
Hills Have
Yep.
Eyes. And
Yep.
then after, when I met Wes, he was doing what's the other one? Last House on the Left. That's the one
Yes. Yeah.
with the Greek filmmaker. That was a cool guy. And a cool movie too. So at the time, he was just revisiting his movies actually, and that's why I was gonna work on People Under the Stairs. So yeah, it was very organic. He saw my movie. He wanted to work on that movie. He wanted to produce a remake of Before the Fall, and then he showed me obviously the project. I said, yeah, I love the original. I will
Yeah.
love to do something different with this.
At that point, I know you had already been, a working filmmaker. You had won awards, and it was, it's not like you were brand new to the industry or anything like that. But how does that feel to get a phone call from Wes Craven, which many consider like, one of the masters of horror that's been involved in creating these huge, huge IPs that still stand at the top? To get a phone call like that, not only for him to want to redo and remake your movie, then to also say, well, I actually want you to take a look at remaking one of my movies as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was overwhelming. I was in shock. I mean, still like, yeah, when I think about that, I mean, I was like a fan. I mean, I was directing, obviously, but I grew up watching all his movies. I'm a huge fan of all of them. So I remember perfectly every minute I spent with Wes and his son, Jonathan, that I see often in Los Angeles now. It was incredible. I mean, I couldn't process. I think I was just working and say, "Oh, fine, I'll do my best," you know. And I started to work and bring ideas to Wes. But yeah, all the meetings like we had, and it was incredible. I mean, for me, it was like I'll be always thankful to Wes and keeping in my mind with a lot of, like proud, and I'm deeply grateful.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things behind the scenes about Wes.
Yeah, he was the
Yeah,
nicest,
I've
the
heard that many
smartest,
times.
the most gentle, sensitive, freedom. He gave me a lot of freedom for everything. It's like you just came back with your take. Don't worry about rating. Just do your take, and we'll figure out later if it's gonna be rated or PG
Mm.
13 or whatever. Don't worry. Just do your thing. So it was amazing. It was best experience ever.
So you do that, and that was something I actually didn't know. So you're involved in all this. You get into LA, all this stuff is kind of happening around you, and I guess we fast forward a bit of time then, and you get contacted about rings. It
In,
Yeah, how did that was that
uh,
before, was that something that was in the background before that?
Uh, before that was there was another thing, a couple of things. I got involved in the Crow. Uh, I got the call for to do the Crow when I was the project with Wes didn't take off because of legal stuff and Universal and everything. So it was really hard to put together the remake of the people on the stairs. Um, yeah, so I got a call to do the Crow from Ed Pressman, who I met long time ago with my short film. He saw my short film, and I had a couple of dinners with Ed, like I'm telling, like around 2002, 2003, because of my short film. He wanted to work with me for a while, and we were talking about we were actually talking at the time, and I'm saying this was before my movie, my first movie, before the fall. We were talking about doing a remake of The Phantom of the Paradise. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I met Ed Pressman talking about that. And then we fast forward some years later. I made my premiere in Berlin. Before the fall, I was in LA with Wes Craven. And then he called me. I said, "Look, Javier, I saw your movie. I love it. And um, I have this project that you may like to do. It's called The Crow." I say, "Of course, I know The Crow." Yeah, I was working on that movie with Ed for 4 years, 4 years, I think. That movie didn't work out because I mean, you probably heard the whole stories of The Crow, different directors and everything. At some point after 4 years, I was like, I needed to shoot something. So I say, well, I signed for The Ring, um, and then I had the two movies for a while, uh, but it didn't work out because they wanted me with exclusivity for The Crow, and I couldn't work with exclusivity at the time. I needed to to put my work on the Ring movie too. So I just stayed with the Ring, and then I had to leave The Crow, which was sad. But well, it was a movie that you could tell it was going to take a long time. It was never. We were always about to, but
Yeah,
not ready to shoot.
yeah.
So
Is that difficult then? You know, seeing as you're somebody who who's quite creative and I think has a lot of your own ideas and imagination. Is it difficult, or I often kind of wonder about this, that, you know, me with no context, I would think, oh, it would be amazing to be in LA and I'm with Wes Craven, I'm going to remake this movie. I'm involved with The Crow, I'm involved with this, I'm involved with that. Is there a balance there for you between remaking sequels to existing IPs versus your own idea being made?
It is. It's not easy. I mean, it's complicated because, as you say, there's like you have your own projects that they are your passion projects. That obviously is the ones that you're more excited about. Then you have like work for hire, that you get like a sequel, like Rings, or a movie, totally a fresh movie, but it's not your script. And then there is like remakes or reboots or whatever you want to call them now. Uh, so it is. I mean, at the end of the day, everything is about passion. Um, for example, with the Crow, I had the passion of the graphic novel. I read the graphic novel a long time ago. I When I met Jane Sobar, it was like amazing because I understood all of a sudden everything that was going
Mm,
on in that graphic novel, and the passion and the love and everything. And I wanted to do, really, it was like it became a passion project because I wanted to do a movie, nothing to do with Alex Proyas. That I love the Alex Proyas movie actually, but I wanted to make a movie based on the graphic novel, like with all the crazy ideas that they were in the graphic novel that they were not in Alex Proyas movie. So I wanted to go back to the original roots and try to do something more like more based on James Omar's work. So it became a passion thing. So you have, when you get these projects, if you find the excitement and the passion, is when you made them your baby. I mean, it's
yeah,
obviously it's not going to be always like it's not going to be before the fall. It's not going to be the weight that they are based. They have a lot of sensitive um, and the sensitivity of my childhood and things that I grew up with and I saw. So it's more real, let's say. But these other ones, not being the same level, maybe there are still like projects that you you love at the end, and it depends how the movie turns out too, because a lot of times you don't have the control that you have when you do a passion project like The Wait or Before the Fall. I have final cut. I control every single aspect of I cut the movie myself. uh, um, so you have a full control. When you work with a studio, you don't have full control. So obviously you're not going to have like the perfect movie you dream with
yeah,
in your head. You have to commit, because it's like either a work for hire or something. So, but you have to be in love with the project. I mean, myself at least, I work like that. I need to be in love with the project, and I keep receiving now. Have been receiving a lot of scripts lately for, and some of them are cool, but it's not a movie that I will fall in love. So you have to fall in love in order to fight for the movie, to try to do what you think is right. When it's not your passion project or your movie that you produce, or like, obviously it's not gonna have like, you know, all your uh, personality, because they're gonna play with it a little bit, and you commit, to work with different people, and it's a mix of sensitivity. So it's not 100% your movie, but at least that love, you have to have it. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to work for 2 years on a project if I don't love something about the project.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And so, I'm sure you get sent lots of different scripts, and people probably contact about ideas for maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. Do you ever, with existing IPs, or I don't know whether it be books or short stories or different things like that, Is that something that you ever do outside of adapting your own stories from scratch? Do you ever maybe sit down and want to give a fresh take on, I don't know, a Nightmare on Elm Street or this or that? Is that something that you ever like actively think of?
Yeah, I mean, some movies, like look, The Phantom of the Paradise was my first offer. Well, it was like, first, and I love that movie. It's not that
Mm,
popular, I mean, I think now it's starting to be more popular, but it's, it's a strange movie directed by Brian De Palma. It was amazing. So, and I had a take. I had an idea. It's not like, okay, let's think how I'm gonna. I just love the movie so much that I came up with a crazy, totally different version inspired on the movie. So it again, it's about passion. If you find like reading a book, sometimes I find something that is so cool, and it's like, oh my god, this I could do something so cool with this book, with this novel. Maybe the rights are not available or something. So that happens. It's not only your own stories. Sometimes you just get excited with somebody else's script. Sometimes it's like, wow, this is really good. Uh, but you tend to bring it to your, obviously, even if it's a script that is more like, okay, this is pretty much done already. You try to bring it to your world. That part is harder to do. I think it's easier to adapt a novel or to adapt a short story or to do a reboot or a remake with freedom, or even a sequel with freedom. I think you have, it's more fun than when you get like a script that is pretty much, it's right there. Unless, because the chances that the script matches your sensitivity and your way of tell a story are hard, so you have to try to bring it to your area. But yeah, books, novels, comics, yeah, that's kind of same process that working on your own thing.
is it difficult to go between the process of, like, obviously, just from speaking to you for the last few minutes, it's clear that you have a lot of your own ideas, your own visions, and you're very passionate about those. Those are the things that you want to see come to life. Is it difficult to be in that position and maybe it's obviously sounds like it's a lot harder to get those made and then maybe getting offers for existing IPs, and I'm sure that once Rings came out you probably had offers for other sequels, reboots, remakes, and kind of, oh yeah, we just want you to do what you done there, just with this franchise, with that franchise. Is it difficult between, I guess, the business side of it and then really sticking it out and saying, well, I'm going to say no to this guaranteed money, this guaranteed work. I'm going to push that away so I can continue to follow this.
Yeah, it's a complicated balance. That's a very good question because it's the struggle of every filmmaker, I think. Obviously, if I could, I will be just doing my movies, like my personal projects, or an adaptation of a book that I love, or like whatever, something like that. But those projects are really hard to to finance. The wait took me forever. Look, I mean, it's like took me like 5 years to to fully finance and it's like not a high budget project. It's a small independent movie. I had to finance it like with like finding the resources, and it's complicated to fight for something that is not a popular IP or it's not the you don't have like a studio behind. I think it's tricky because obviously you're a professional and you have to live out of it too. So you have to keep the balance. I think to make a movie for yourself and then to do the next one, like to commit to do something for a studio or like because otherwise is you would do just like maybe two movies and that's it. It's really hard. So that's why, for example, I did Before the Fall. That was my personal movie. Then I opened myself to other projects. The Crow was not exactly my project, but I felt love for that
Yeah.
movie. Rings, I found something that I like about I mean, I love the original Ring movie. Um, and I felt there was something interesting that I wanted to explore with that one. Uh, so I say, okay, yeah, I can do this. Those are not your projects, but you have to do something like, and it's
Hmm.
good too. It's kind of healthy too sometimes, just to work out of yourself a little bit. So uh,
Yeah.
I think it works out because the way it exists, it was possible to make because of Rings. It's like,
Mm.
so you have to do that. Probably the next movie I'm gonna direct most likely will be another more like mainstream, let's say.
Yes.
I mean, because I think because of those movies, I can do the ones that are more like personal ones. Obviously, those movies they make a lot of money, they pay you well, and somehow I think it works like that. I mean, in Hollywood they say one for them, one for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think you have to be open to those and see. Obviously, you're not going to have the perfect movie you want to have, because it's not your 100%. You don't have control, but you have to try to keep the balance and enjoy the process. And you learn a lot working on those movies too. With the Crow, I learned a lot, and I met a lot of amazing professionals that I love and I work with now. With the Rain, same thing. It was like a process of a lot of people working together and trying to figure out like a version of the movie and everything. And in that process, I met like really smart and brilliant artists that now I talk to often, and I'm gonna make them part of my new projects. So yeah, it's just keeping the balance.
Is it difficult when now I guess it's probably a little bit different because you're more established and you've had all those years in LA and places like that. Is it difficult when you first get there not to just say yes to everything? Because I feel like, and maybe this is just me, or maybe it's me speaking from like a fan or an audience point of view, but I think we all feel like that if we got that opportunity and we were able to go to LA and speak with Wes Craven, I feel like that anybody that reached out to me with any sequel, even if it was the 10th sequel in a franchise, I would want to say yes to every opportunity.
I know. It's true that happens a lot. I mean, I got like projects offers. Like, I mean, last week I said no to one that it was a fun movie, and I was like, this is a fun movie. It will be fun for me to do it, but I don't think it's a smart step. I don't think it's the right one for me. And as director, you have to be picky. Maybe I'm too picky because, as you see, my filmography takes me forever with movies. I keep receiving projects, and I feel I'm not the right director for those, so I don't find the passion. But you're tempted. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about movies that they're fun. I mean,
Mm,
uh, and projects, and I had to pass. And I didn't want to get involved. And I'm saying like movies based on novels by Stephen King that I love Stephen King, but I thought maybe this is gonna take forever, or I'm not gonna be able to please an audience because they made a movie already that's a masterpiece. So what I'm gonna do a sequel or things like that.
mm,
So you have to value that from a perspective, not like a fan, because then you will do everything. Just like
yeah, yeah,
more like saying, okay, fine, what's the right step, and walk out from projects that suddenly they get like not good, like that
mm,
too. Like, okay, this is not going in the right direction. I should try. I mean, sometimes it's too late, uh, but you have to again keep a balance and try to be smart about your choices, because actors, they're lucky, I always say, because they can do like so many movies, and maybe one of them it's fun and it doesn't work in the box office, or the reviews are horrible or whatever. But directions, we have to be very careful, especially, yeah, if you do two movies in a row that they are not good, it's not a good thing. It's like you
yeah.
have
I've
to.
heard that before. Like it's like you're the guy, if
Yeah,
it does
yeah.
well, and then if it doesn't do well, all of a sudden nobody wants to pick up the phone.
So funny. It's so crazy. It's up and down, LA.
Mm,
And it's like that. It's like the people is the same. I mean, a director that suddenly does a super hit and then the next one sucks. He's the same guy. He's gonna do a hit again, but just like the next one is gonna be harder for him, to find the financing because I don't know why they behave like that. But it's like, oh wow, that movie that right now that's has not a good reviews or whatever. So you have to be a little bit conscious of your situation as director and not just say yes to everything because uh, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of movies that they were very fun, and I was like, it sucks. I would love to do this, and I have to travel here and just spend 1 year there. I would do that, in an island or something like that. Yeah, that's fun. But then you have to be more like, okay, no, that's not how I see my career, and this is a very risky move. I do risky moves actually with my personal projects. They are very risky, but well, I just go for it. I don't care.
um, do you think that being, and obviously, I don't we don't need to get into like the specifics of it, but do you think that um being, I guess, financially savvy or business savvy has allowed you to be more picky? Like, I see sometimes I feel like directors unfortunately take everything that comes their way through necessity. It's a case of, you know, I don't know what's gonna happen next, so I'm just gonna have to direct Nightmare on Elm Street 25 because I don't have a choice. Do you think that some of that, you being business savvy as well as being a creative, has kind of allowed you to be a little bit more, okay, well, I don't need to, this is not right for me, and I'm in a position that I actually don't need to just take this because.
Yeah, well, uh, I think it's again. I talk about this actually with friend filmmakers in Hollywood. They have huge houses and mansions, and I talk to them a lot. And I say, "Why are you doing this movie? You should just go Europe and make an independent passion project." And they say, "Look, Javier, it's great what you are saying, but I have to pay the bills of this mansion." So that happens once you are entering that status that you have to, yes, you need the money because you have a lot of expenses. uh, I try to be very European in that regard.
Yeah.
I don't get engaged in like buying a huge house or crazy expenses. I try to be smart with the money, with whatever I like, the earnings for Ring. I don't spend them right away and rent like 5 amazing places, one in New York, one in Dubai. No, I don't do those things. I just rather to keep it. So I have the luxury to say no when I see a project that is like, okay, this is gonna be probably not great. So I can't wait. I can still like. So I try to do that, but yeah, that is part of how Hollywood works. So that's why you see a lot of times that they suddenly directed actors. It happens with actors a lot. They
Mm,
take movies that is like, what is doing in this movie? It's just a paycheck, and they say it's a paycheck. Um, but yeah, I'd rather to have less movies, but something that is at least I can sleep, by night. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I didn't. I tried to. So it's better to have like a filmography with 10 movies and 6 of them are really like horrible.
Yeah, and I feel like unfortunately for a lot of people, they probably never go into it with that intention, but when you get caught in that machine, what tends to happen is, I think if you, I don't know, if you make a part 10 of an existing franchise and that doesn't go very well, unfortunately from there, it in most cases seems to be a downward trend because you only get offered kind of that level of, okay, he's the guy who makes, like, part 15 of
Yeah,
this
yeah,
movie, and it
they
just
put you
gets
in a
worse and
box.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like after Rings, I got like so many sequels. Like from all the horror movies that look they were fun. I was like, this
Mm.
will be fun to make, but then I'm gonna be the director of the third, fourth, fifth series or whatever. So yeah, that happens. So you have to be careful. It's fun, but you have to be careful.
It was there anyone there? I don't know if you can say specific names or anything, but was there anything that you've been offered that you said no to that still kind of lingers in the back of your mind where you're like, oh, maybe I should have just done that one?
Well, yeah, there is a bunch. Uh, we were talking about Friday the 13th, for example, like a whole new take. And actually, the script was by a really good writer, that it was like a drama writer, and it was like very interesting. That's one we were talking about, like after Vince. But I didn't think I wanted to get into that. But yeah, like as a horror fan that I grew up watching those movies, I was like, wow, this will be fun. And then again, some Stephen King projects, like we were talking at some point, like yeah, a bunch of his novels. Some of them they actually got made after, and then I thought like, well, maybe I should have done it, but I didn't think it was right for me. So I think the director who directed the one that I'm thinking, he did a good job. So it's like good for him, great. Everybody has to find his own path. So
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. Yeah, in hindsight, maybe it was probably good not to get involved with Friday the 13th because that's just turned into a complete mess right now. And
It is
it kind of falls into what you said about things like The Crow or People Under the Stairs. These things get really messy because somebody owns the rights for this, somebody doesn't want to do that, somebody else is involved, and then
very complicated.
I understand what you mean as well about, if you sign on the dotted line, now you've got maybe 8 years, 10 years where you can't do anything, and this project may never even get made.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I have so many
Mm.
movies that I was involved and they were like never ending. So yes, you just
Does it
gotta.
happen often in that case? Does it happen often that a studio or a company will try and get you locked into exclusivity where you can't go elsewhere, you can't work on another project while
It doesn't happen often. I had it twice. I got like twice. I got like exclusivity. Like they tried with. I was saying about the Crow thing, and I couldn't commit. Then another project I had like another. I think it was a science fiction that actually I was attached for 6 months with exclusivity and never happened. But I couldn't do anything. And I'm telling you, that's rough for a filmmaker when you're like there waiting 6 months. They pay you, which is fine, but I'm not happy. I mean, I cannot like if I don't care. When they offer you money, I'm not very. I don't think much about the money. Otherwise, I would probably have done a lot of things, but I don't need a big mansion. I don't care. So yes, exclusivity is the worst thing, I think, from a creative point of view, because you're a slave of that movie and you have no. It's not your movie. You are not producing the movie. You don't know if they are gonna greenlight the movie ever, and you may be 1 year waiting. Um, it's I don't think it's worth it. I mean, some people will say, "Yeah, I'll just take the money and go to." I had a friend who told me once, like, was a manager. It's like, just take the money and go to Caribbean islands for a year and wait till they greenlight the movie. But I don't think I cannot handle that. I drive myself crazy.
yeah, I think the idea probably sounds really good until, like you said, it's 6 months and you haven't been able to do anything, and you
Mm.
have another 6 months or another 12 months ahead, and it's like just soul destroying.
Yeah, not good, not good. It doesn't work. I had it 6 months, and I'm not gonna try it ever again.
Yeah. Do you have like a routine, a daily routine or a creative process that you follow? Like when you're trying to, I don't know, come up with ideas. I've heard different things like people carry notebooks, people try and go to a different coffee shop and just watch people, or go to the beach and just kind of see how people behave and act to try and, I guess, stoke the creative fire.
Yeah, I don't have like a pattern that I follow or something. I'm very anarchic with that. I walk a lot, not necessarily thinking on a project or idea, but I spend like time thinking about what I want to do next, and then someday I think, oh, maybe a movie about this is interesting for me. I have like 4 or 5 themes that I like and think about them. It takes me a while. I don't do it like, and I keep walking and thinking. I maybe doing my life. I'm thinking about that, and then one day I find something, and then is when I lock myself in a room. It's like, okay, this is gonna be it. This is the basic structure, like the basic idea, and then I sit down and yeah, I start to write and I try to work on like the story, and then when I write, I commit. I'm very obsessed, and I write for a month in a row and things like that. And in 2 months, I have the script or something like that. So yeah,
So when you say that you become obsessed and you commit, so say it's 4 weeks, it's 6 weeks, do you have like okay, I get up in the morning, have breakfast, and then I need to sit and write for a certain amount of time? Is it like an everyday thing? Is it
it's
when it
it's
feels like it?
it's like when I am like working on something that I have no other commitments. Like obviously, if I have like in the summer, I have a summer I'm working. I was working on something last summer. You just yeah, I don't have like I basically when I feel like I don't sit down if I'm tired or exhausted because it's not gonna be good. So I have to feel like, okay, I want to write now. I write every day a lot, but maybe I don't write till 8 in the evening. I
Yeah.
have spent the
Okay.
day like walking, going, drinking, and I want to write, but I'm not gonna write yet. And then when I feel like, okay, now I'm in the mood, I sit down at 8 in the evening, and maybe I go to bed at 8 in the morning. I'm a bit like that. I'm very obsessive, but I don't have. I cannot follow a schedule like waking up at 8 in the morning, writing. I work better by night too, so for me that works better. But yeah, during the daytime, I just do my life, and then when it starts to get dark, I go to my place and I lock myself.
Do do you get a chance to, or do you try to watch a lot of movies and consume a lot of TV, movies, books, whatever it may be?
I mean, I love movies, so I watch a lot of movies. I try to watch them in the theater. When I'm in LA, there's plenty of chances to watch movies everywhere. I have a cinema very close to my place, like 10 minutes away, and I go to that one. I have my pass, my monthly pass, and I go to see movies over and over. And obviously, I have like the streamers and everything. So I watch a lot of movies. Yes, I don't watch TV shows though. Like series, I'm not into those. I saw a couple of them that I like, but mostly I watch an episode and I don't care. I cannot follow like
Yeah, it's very hard to commit.
yeah, it's just like and there's too many. There is
Yeah.
already too many movies in streaming. There's way too many movies, um, and some of them are not great. You know, a lot of them are not great actually.
Mm.
So I'll just the ones that they are released in the theater, classical cinema experience. Yeah, I try to go to all those, and so obviously sometimes I cannot catch them all, and I watch them after in streaming. Yeah, I just yeah, I like them. I go to watch a lot of movies.
As a filmmaker, then, I would assume would TV series be something that you would be open to? And then I guess the follow up to that is you mentioned streamers, and there's a lot of movies come out a lot of times, and a lot of them are not very good. Is that a struggle then as a filmmaker, that the worry that if you've made something potentially that you feel is worthwhile and it ends up getting just thrown into the pit with 100 other movies and just kind of gets lost? I feel like movies now, uh, people discover movies 4 or 5, 6 years after they've come out, and like maybe someone posts on TikTok or somewhere, and then all of a sudden everybody is talking about the movie. And then like I
Yeah,
look it up and I'm like, oh, this movie came out in 2016, and like everybody's only talking about it in 2025.
yeah, yeah. That happens a lot. Uh, well, uh, yeah, the fear of having a movie thrown into a streamer, it's a big one, for a filmmaker, because you put your heart in a movie, uh, even if it's not your personal movie, it's like a work for hire, but it's a lot of work. I mean, Rings was not my movie. Like, I don't feel it's like my baby, but I put a lot of work on that. So the thing you don't want to see is like your movie lost in a streamer. Nobody cares. It's like 2 years, minimum 2 years of your life there, like throwing away. So yeah, you like with the Wait, for example, has been a movie that I took care very much of that movie. Like, I helped promote actively. I helped to release the movie in the US. I've been there. Hopefully, we get a release in UK. I don't think it's still there. But yeah, you care about your movies, and you try to you make them for the audience. It's like, it's obviously an expression of yourself, and it's something that you have enjoyment when you're working. But it's what's the point of making something that is going to be just for you or your family and friends? It's like you want, hopefully, to be outside and be number one in the charts of the streamer or whatever. So yeah, it's like it's scary. And a lot of times, when I get projects and I say no, it's because they are fine projects, but I can tell with my experience that they're going to be probably like that. They're going to be one out
Yeah.
of 100 movies. There's nothing special about it. A lot of the projects you get as a director for hire are like that, because the ones that are more unique are the ones that you write. Because if you have
Mm.
something unique, you're not going to give it to somebody else. Right? You just want to do it. So it happens a lot. Again, that's why I'd rather honestly not making a movie for 1 year and be reading novels or getting inspired or something, that just jump into making a movie for a streamer that is gonna be like one of the 100 originals that they release every month. And I had that chance already, like last year. I say no, I don't think it's for me. But I mean, it's fine. Some other directors, they like to do that, and they maybe don't care that much. They just want to have more work, which is fine. But it's not my thing. It's just different.
I just have a couple of other short questions before I let you go. To kind of follow on from that, do you feel like now, I guess from a professional standpoint, do you think that studios and companies are going to be more receptive to original ideas, considering, things like Long Legs, like that was just
Mhm.
astronomical, and I feel like that's happening more and more, and like the audience seems to be responding a lot better to. I feel like at one point, maybe as an audience, we didn't help because everybody just wanted to see another sequel to Texas
Mhm.
Chainsaw or Nightmare on Elm Street or, Michael Myers, and now I feel like there's definitely been a little bit of a shift where people are not as responsive to some of those IPs, and they kind of rather see something completely new. Do you feel that from a filmmaker standpoint, that maybe over time, if that continues to work, that they're going to be more responsive to, okay, Javier, have you got original ideas? We don't want to hear about any other stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that too now. I can see a change in the trend. It used to be like sequels and remakes and reboots. When I arrived to LA, I mean, everything I had like were like that. It was a little bit like too much. I think in the last years they start to realize that they don't work that well, because some of them, and the problem is that they touch too many people, like you say, too many people in the kitchen, right? Cooking. So a lot of them, they don't work as they expected. And then they see that, yeah, people is responding to new things and movies with a strong point of view from a filmmaker. That's something that they were forgetting. I mean, there was an age when all the Spielberg, Coppolas, and Scorsese's started. There were movies that they have a soul, and they were by real filmmakers, and you can enjoy those, and they are different. They are not like a streaming movie, right? There's a personality there. So I think, and I want to think, as you said, that we're going back to that because of these little movies that, thank you to Neon or A24, mostly they are starting to bring new ideas and bring new voices and respect those voices, not trying to interfere and cut or. And I hope that you're right and start to give a little bit more freedom and hear about new projects because it's not that there's no great directors and great voices or great stories. It's just that they didn't want to hear them. They were just pushing for their IPs because they thought that was like save money. So now with the new movies that they are breaking into the box office, I think they are learning that, okay, look, it may work. And maybe it's not the usual story that we don't understand because it's not, it feels different, but maybe different is good, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I definitely think, it doesn't hurt then obviously that the box office for some of these movies is
Yes.
absolutely just astronomical. And I think from a fan and an audience standpoint, that's exactly what as a fan or as an audience member we can do for these things is to go out and actually see them in theaters and support. I think it shows maybe
Yes,
the
definitely.
executives, oh wait a second, these things can actually make just as much, if not more money than
Yes.
existing IPs. As somebody then who's directed, written, produced films, is there one that you find creatively more fulfilling, or is it a case of, I like to write something and I like to direct something that I write, and I would also like to produce that and kind of have it all under my control?
Yeah. Well, in my career, the last one, the weight, I had like pretty much full control. I was co-producing, which, as you know, in Spain is like producing. In the US, is different. Co-producer feels like whoever. But yeah, here it's like I was producing the movie with my partner, and then I was writer, director, editor, production designer. So I had full on control. So that was very fulfilling, despite we didn't have the time and the money that I wanted, because obviously it was a smaller movie because it was a risky movie. So those are the ones that you feel like, proud of it. You can go to an interview and talk about the movie, and it's yourself, it's your movie. If you're not lucky and people don't respond to the movie and they don't like it, still is your movie, you know. So
Yeah.
you can have interviews and it's harder when you are fighting for a movie that is not your movie and maybe you are not happy with it, or and you're in that situation, you have an interview and you have to talk about a movie and you're like, yeah, well, I didn't want that to happen in the movie that happens, so that's harder.
Yeah, I
But
and people always give me shit for saying things like this, but somebody like Rob Zombie or even someone like Quentin Tarantino, I love sometimes when I hear them in interviews saying that like that idea of not wanting to do a project unless it can be my project. Like I feel like whether you like somebody like Rob Zombie or not is kind of irrelevant to what I'm talking about. It's more he talked about the studio process and he was like, for the most part, I would rather it be a Rob Zombie movie and maybe not do as well. But creatively, I feel like I've gotten that out, or even Quentin Tarantino. Like a lot of people don't realize he made 9 movies, 10 movies, and I think everybody feels like he's made 100 movies, but he
yeah,
hasn't.
he hasn't.
Yeah, and I listened to him only yesterday on a podcast talking to someone. He was like, "Yeah, I just look, I get lots of offers. There's lots of things on the table, but I just feel like if I can't, obviously, I have to give away some control to the studio or whatever. But I just can't bring myself to do it. I just cannot do it. It's just impossible for me. I
It is.
couldn't. It's like you said, like I couldn't sleep at night
Yeah,
if I just.
it's really hard. It's like I mean, I have been working in a franchise that I have not full control, and it's really hard. It's really hard. You have to fight for the movie. You put yourself like a fan trying to protect the movie a lot of times. It's really complicated and it's not easy. It's not easy unless you see that you have like a producing team that they are actually very, in sync with you. it's really hard. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. So yeah, if I have to pick between one of those uh, work for hire projects that you're going to have to struggle and fight for the movie every second, and then you're going to have to deal with the reviews. One of
Mm,
the movies that you do for yourself, little money, but more control and financially fine. I mean, you're not going to be destroyed at least. I will totally go for that one, because yeah, it's more fulfilling. And as a filmmaker, it's so much better. It's so much better than have like a three, like number four of a franchise that maybe makes a lot of money, but you don't really, the movie suck and you don't really feel like,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of really quick fire questions before I let you go. Um, if you could collaborate with any filmmaker, living or dead, who would you choose, and what genre of movie would you like to make with them?
Oof, that's so complicated. Um, well, I love Kubrick.
Mm,
So I think probably Kubrick, I will do something with Kubrick and probably Dark.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a given, I think. Um, Scariest movie you've ever seen, and why do you think it sticks out in your mind still?
Oh, scariest.
For you personally, I mean, something that pops into your mind that you're like, yeah, that kind of stuck with me.
Well, Rosemary's Baby stuck with
Mm,
me for a long time when I was a kid because I remember that movie. I couldn't watch it, and actually, I started to watch the movie. And I was a kid, and my parents kicked me out of the living room because it was too scary. And I listened the whole movie through the door of my bedroom, and I finished the movie like that. I was freaking out. I think that one and The Exorcist that they
mm,
played for me in my school when I was a kid
wow,
in religion class. Can you
Jesus.
believe that? It was surreal. We were all in shock, like we're like shocking. So I think those two probably were like the ones I remember that I freak out when I was a kid.
Do you have any comfort, either horror movies or movies in general, that you have found yourself you would go back and watch multiple times?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I have seen, but they are not horror.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, they're more like I don't know. Back to the Future. I have seen
Mhm.
so many times. Um, they're more like a fantasy.
Yeah.
I go back to see like a lot of movies from the 80s that I love. I thought was crazy, and I see everything from like Greek, Clash of Titans and things like
Mhm.
that, to Back to the Future, to American Werewolf in London, to I don't know, it's a lot. Alien, um, so many. I go back usually to 80s. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I love those, like, and some of the 70s too. They are very cool.
I feel like Spain and like the Spanish culture is very similar to Ireland in the sense of there's a very rich um past and storylines and lores and legends and things like that. Is that ever something that you've considered as like an idea for a movie, maybe an urban legend or a myth or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I actually tried, but it was not easy. It's funny because in Spain it's not easy to make a horror. It's not like we make great horror, I think, in Spain,
Yeah.
but they're not movies that are easy to finance. I tried for a while. There was like a couple of ideas I had from like legends from the area, from where I am from, and but they didn't work out. They in Spain, believe it or not, the thing that they want to produce are comedies, mostly comedies, and sometimes thrillers. Thriller like, but like thriller. When I say thriller, it's more like a yeah, cop, Liam Neeson kind
Yes.
of thriller.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
love that. The audiences in Spain, they love thrillers and comedies. So yeah, the people that we love horror or fantasy or genre or sci-fi is really, really not easy to find.
Yeah,
That's why
that's
I'm looking
crazy to me
at.
because
I know.
Spanish horror has always been like I can find very few that were like I would consider not very good. There's always been something that has excited me about them. So, what does the future look like for you then? I know you probably can't talk about the next thing. Obviously, the wait is the thing right now. And like you said, in different regions and areas, we can expect that to start to show up for people. But is there something you're working on now and like going forward? How would you like to see the future panning out?
Well, I'm still like doing some promotion for the wait. I have to go to. I mean, we have the satellite awards now.
Yep.
I'm going back to that to LA, and after that we have the US release of the Blu-ray. I think it's gonna be like in a couple of months, but I'm starting to open the door, and I'm reading things. Obviously, I'm getting things from the agency, and I'm reading projects that I keep saying no at the moment to everything. I'm starting to think about my own projects, maybe, but I want to do. I have some of them actually that I wrote in the past, but I feel that I want to do something different now, and I think I'm gonna take a while, and I'm gonna try to write something completely new for me now. So it's gonna take a little bit. Obviously, I'm gonna keep listening to projects like I said before about like American um, novels, writers, and things like that. But yeah, all it's too early. I don't know
Yeah.
yet.
Final question then is I normally ask why horror, but I know that's not just your sole passion or your creative outlet, but why do you think you're drawn to maybe the more dark aspects of filmmaking and storytelling and what does it mean for you personally?
Yeah, yeah, I got that question a couple of times. Yeah, it's a good one, and I don't have really a clear response because I tend to dark all the time. Like it's like the scripts they send me, the projects, the novels. I think there is something probably is connected to our human nature. I think in my movies, even in Rings, that is not my script, there is idea they are bad. It was not really in the movie. But in Before the Fall and in The Wait, you can see that there is like a contrast between the beauty and light and of uh, um, of the human being and the human soul and the darkness, completely darkness. And I think there is like a something there that interests me, like how we can be able to do the most beautiful and wonderful things, and at the same time, some of us we can get into the dark and do the worst and most evil things. And there
Yeah.
is something about that contrast that somehow has a conflict, and I see the choice that we make. That I think it's something that is present in all my filmography. The choice that the character makes about those elements. There is something connected with that. I cannot put my fingers only what is that, but there is something about that contrast and the human nature that I always feel is very interesting.
It's funny because every time I ask somebody a question like that, they're liking it to asking, who's your favorite family member or who's your favorite kid or something like that. It's a very hard question to answer specifically. This has been fantastic. I know we have to finish up now. But I would love to revisit again maybe in the second half of the year, and see what else is coming from you. This has been fantastic. I could talk to you all day. I wish you all the best with everything going forward. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what's coming next.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Has been a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you.